what I think is important, then saying where the question is the answer. I lived my life making my work by asking questions but not answering. I share this elsewhere. Since I've written books and did the videos and made presentations, the stuff in the books have lots of common sense, and all it required for me to do was to ask the question. I visit the company, I ask question at the top management, middle management, at the shop floor, different departments. And at the end, I summarize what I found and the potential bottlenecks so that they can resolve it. So there was certain conclusion, not just leaving with the questions, but for each visit, I kept this process like a CAPD. Check, act, plan, do. Check, act, plan, do. Check what's going on to realize what's happening, and then ask the question at different levels, and then summarize and leave and then come back again. So CAPD over and over. And the structure in the company, I call it the mini companies. So every unit, department, sections are like a mini company. And I ask questions, how they're running the company, what's important, how they address the problem, and so what? What's the strategy going forward? So basically, I ask those questions at each unit of the organization and summarize at the end to talk with the key management and some shop floor people representing the shop floor, so they envision the picture going forward and what could be the bottleneck, the hurdles to go over. So leaving with the question and the idea of this then saying where the question is the answer. It's very nebulous and not straightforward in the sense of just saying do this, do that. That's a top-down approach, but my approach has been always empowerment of the mini company all the way through the whole organization, to question, to find what's most important, how to do it, and make the problem visible so people may share how they're doing and how each of those can be connected with each other. So these are already shared in the books I've written, especially in the second book, but also in the third book. The second book is called The New Shop Floor Management, Empowering People for the Continuous Improvement. Questioning and let the solution to come. In between, I don't think about it, I don't expect anything. I just come back to the company and check again to go through CAPD. Check, act, plan, do for each unit and then as a whole. What's interesting is this process can be applied with my own self to find the passage into the future as I live. In my case, instead of mini company, there's mini me and mini me, and mini me. It's like a cells all the way down. Before that was organs or different disciplines, and I clarified to look at 6 basic segments, which is in the life profile, whether I am being sincere and truthful. That's the main checkpoint, and one area to look at. It's like a mini me, and then there's mini me's in relation to work, hobby, relationship, health, and finance issues. And I review this every 3 months or so, and have been doing it for the last 25 years or so, since I had this awakening experience. So it's a CAPD process going over and over. What's interesting is that when I had the awakening experience, that's when I had a severe pain. On the 8th day of 10-day meditation in Vipassana, I had such a pain, but under the painful, stressed situation, for some reason I asked this question: is it because I'm trying to escape from the pain I'm having a pain? It turned out that that was a good question to ask. As soon as I asked the question to myself, I opened my eyes to look at what's going on, like checking what's going on, and to realize things start to develop within. Turned out to become a life energy finding the way to come up with a solution, which is release of the tension and the suffering I had to endure, but I didn't have to, because it was me trying to endure. But when I asked the question, it was as if to go beyond the me, the mind, but just observe what's going on, checking. And the time when I was checking, was no mind, no self, just observe. I talked about in the video choiceless awareness. I said it a few times in different videos, by often quoted by Krishnamurti. Choiceless awareness. That was what it was. So when you ask the question, but let the question to be without trying, let it, or awakening. So the question, where the question is the answer, is such an example that I found. And I found that that's the way I have been working with the clients of many companies I visited for the 40-some years I worked, doing the same thing without knowing, because that was the natural thing to empower people to come. This video series is pretty much like the same question and answer dialogue on my own. Each episode, each video, yes, should have an element of CAPD. Check that, plan do. There's an issue I wanted to address, but for me to address it, I have to check what was the case and figure out the story or scenario to come up with the idea to conclude, so that I can synthesize ideas as a resolution, wisdom, or insight, so that I can move on. So CAPD, move on and move on and move on. Each video is a moving on process of solving the problem. Life is the process of solving the problem. And there's a joy of solving it, and get rid of the delusionary thought with wisdom, So it's a critical point. As I mentioned, it's the basic process of life in the other video. So here is aligned to Einstein's quote I mentioned a couple times at least, and it was something like he said he's not a smart person, but he said he can stay with the question longer, something like that. And that's attitudinal quality he maintained. He doesn't waste time in unnecessary thought. He knows what's important, what he wants to do, and he stays with that. So it's as if checking what's going on, gathering information, understanding what is happening in your mind space, but still in samadhi, and maintain that state. And when he maintained the state, it's just like my finally figuring out that maybe I'm trying to escape from the pain. That's why I was in the pain. Kind of a question. And then I realized that I don't have to be. In other words, me is not a main character to solve the problem. No self, no ego, and even no thinking, but observation, choiceless Krishnamurti points, which I shared in the other video. So they are all pointing the same process of sila, samadhi, paññā, CAPD, calm, quiet mind, no self, samadhi, stay with it. And your heart, underlining all the mind process, is your creative energy that is exhibited ever since we are born, or even before that, all the generations, or beginning of the generations of human species, or even before that, when the DNA was much shorter, and there's aliveness, and the CAPD, Sila Samadhi Paññā process, nature's way, has been playing this game, so to speak, game of the natures, the laws of nature to prevail, for us to be alive and still functioning. All the cells are functioning. The word CAPD or Sila Samadhi Paññā is a human creation of the word, but in reality is just the process of what's happening. And when we are connected to that process, creative, wisdom, compassionate idea can pop up. There's no guarantee from the human point of view, but it is the way of nature that we can ride on, go with, align with, to overcome hurdles. And that is life, the driving force of how we live, without us knowing about it. But we can connect to that. So that's the basic principle. And on this subject of where the question is the answer, I had a discussion with DeepSeek AI, and I found it very inspiring. I may make a video about it, but I will try to put the dialogue in this description for this video. If I forget, maybe you write a comment, but I try to remember it. But also I will make a video about it. It's a journey. I've been going through this journey. And the basic process that I am applying seem to be working, and it should. It's following the laws of nature. When we have no mind, no self, and the wisdom or insight, creative thought can come up. And that is what it is. So let's ask the question, just like a kids ask so many questions. And if we stop asking the question, I'm laughing. I think it violates the principle. If this principle or the process or the discipline, PDCA, CAPD, I use the word CAPD because the check has to come first. CAPD and the sila, samadhi, paññā. Sila, not just ethical, but the right approach, right procedure. And then you have this samadhi state to bring out paññā, which is wisdom. So it's a continued process for our life, and when we pass away, it still continues without ego, without mind. That's the eternal home. You might as well to enjoy the process. Of course there's suffering. Of course difficulty exists. It also is part of what it is, that we are thrown into this. But so far as we can connect to our heart and the state of samadhi, the answer doesn't have to come from our brain or even from AI. Well, AI may help us to be like an extension of our brain, but within us is the source of wisdom and compassion. That's what I think. Well, should I say that what I believe the nature is saying? If you have doubt, you start that as a questioning. Oh, what is that doubt? Not to find the answer from someone, but from within. That's empowerment. That's the process that we can engage ourselves and having fun in this process of life. Thank you.